They say defensive backs are built differently, and after spending an afternoon with a few of them, it's hard to argue otherwise. There's a mentality, a swagger, a kind of quiet defiance that separates DBs from every other position in football, maybe even in all of team sports. And this week, as I walked into Steelers practice on the South Side, I made it my mission to focus entirely on that group. I wanted to know what's going on inside that room. I want to hear, straight from them, what it's going to take to fix what's clearly been a broken pass defense. The Steelers aren't just underperforming in coverage. They're ranked 31st in the league. That's not a fluke. That's not a bad day in Cincinnati. That's a pattern. That's systemic. So I made it a point to track down and speak to 4 members of the secondary, all of whom were present and available. One-on-one, no podium, no mass interview sessions, just a conversation. I wanted to cut through the fluff and get to something real. What I got instead was identical. Not word for word, but it felt rehearsed. 4 different men, same energy, same conviction, same unwavering belief that they just have to keep stacking days, keep showing up, keep competing. Darius Slay, for example, gave me a response that could have come straight out of a motivational manual. Work hard, look in the mirror, fix your mistakes, play together, get after it. And again, this isn't a knock on what they said. I'm not here to criticize effort or motivation. But what stuck with me, what really made me think, is how not a single one of them expressed frustration. No one looked defeated. No one even hinted at panic or doubt. That struck me, because if you're in the bottom 2 of the entire league in any defensive category, you'd expect at least one person to break the tone. You'd expect some hint of, hey, this isn't good enough. But that's not how DBs are wired. And maybe that's exactly the point. Defensive backs don't get to live in doubt. They don't get the luxury of dwelling on their last mistake because the next play is coming. It might be a deep shot straight to their side of the field. They live in a world where failure is the expectation. Not because they're bad players, far from it, but because the rules of the game have shifted so far in favor of the passing attack. Quarterbacks get protection, receivers get separation, and the guys in coverage are left to survive under the spotlight, often all alone. No one notices the DB who locks down his man for 3 quarters. But the moment he slips, even once, it's 6 points on the board and 2 arms in the air from the official. It's a brutal reality. You might not remember the perfect coverage that forced an incompletion, but you'll absolutely remember the one where he got torched. That's the job. That's the life. And maybe that's why these guys have developed a kind of bulletproof confidence. It's not arrogance. It's survival. Even wide receivers, often labeled as divas, don't face this level of pressure. They can disappear for stretches of the game without anyone noticing. A DB can't afford that luxury. He's either making a play or getting exposed. And when a unit as a whole is struggling, as this one is, the spotlight becomes blinding. Let's not sugarcoat it. This defense has been bad against the pass. And I'm not talking about one-off mistakes or being slightly out of position. I'm talking about chunk plays, missed tackles, blown assignments, and a general sense that no one's quite on the same page. But if you ask them about it, as I did, they won't show concern. They'll double down on belief. They'll say they just need to execute better, communicate more, clean up the little things. There's a confidence there that borders on denial, and yet, I respect it. Ike Taylor once told me that cornerbacks need to have short-term memory loss. If you're thinking about the last play, you're toast on the next one. And that mentality is what defines this group. They're not panicking because they can't afford to. They're not analyzing what went wrong on Thursday night because they're already locked in on Sunday. Maybe that's what separates them. Maybe that's why, even when the results are ugly, they stay composed. But let's also be honest. Something has to change. Maybe it's schematic. Maybe it's personnel. Maybe it's just a matter of getting younger legs into the mix. Darius Slay, for all his experience and accolades, is 2 years older than any other starting corner in the league. At some point, even the best start to lose a step. That's not an excuse. That's biology. And when you face elite receivers like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, those steps matter. Every inch matters. It's easy to point fingers at the players, but the coaching has to take some of the blame too. Coverage schemes, matchups, alignments, none of it looked right in Cincinnati. It wasn't just physical breakdowns, it was mental lapses. It looked like a unit that didn't know what it wanted to be. And that starts with the top. Whether it's Mike Tomlin, Terrell Austin, or whoever's calling the shots back there, someone needs to draw up a plan that makes sense with the personnel they have. Because here's the thing, it doesn't get easier. The quarterbacks on the schedule only get better. Jordan Love is next, and while he's not Mahomes, he's no slouch either. After that, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, twice. Jared Goff, that's a gauntlet. And if this secondary keeps playing like they have been, those matchups could get ugly fast. But here's where it gets complicated. Everything on defense is connected. When the pass rush doesn't get home, the secondary looks worse. When the coverage is soft, the rush gets there too late. It's a symbiotic relationship, and right now, both sides are letting each other down. You can't isolate one without acknowledging the other. And sure, when it works, they all celebrate together. But when it falls apart, the secondary ends up wearing the blame. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that none of the DBs I talked to were fazed. Not even a little bit. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't indifference. It was just belief. A deep, unshakable belief that they're going to turn it around. That all it takes is one good week, one solid performance, to flip the switch and get back to where they were earlier in the season. Against the Browns. Against the Vikings. Games where the defense looked cohesive and locked in. Is it realistic? That's hard to say. But the mindset is clear. They're not dwelling. They're not sulking. They're not pointing fingers. And maybe, just maybe, that's the mindset that will eventually pull them out of this. Or maybe it's the same mindset that keeps them stuck, unwilling to acknowledge that a fundamental shift is needed. And yet, belief only takes you so far in the National Football League. Eventually, belief needs to become execution. At some point, someone has to make a play. Someone has to jump a route. Someone has to time the blitz just right. Someone has to make the hit that flips the momentum. Because the Steelers have already paid the price of waiting for things to click. And the scoreboard doesn't wait for anyone. It just reflects what's real. When I stood there watching practice, I didn't see a secondary in panic mode. I saw a group that still carried themselves with the kind of confidence you can't fake. They weren't walking around with their heads down. They weren't taking it out on each other. They were talking, laughing, competing. If you didn't know the context, if you didn't know they were 31st in pass defense, you'd think this was one of the top units in the league. But that's part of the problem, isn't it? They know how to carry themselves like winners. They've just stopped producing like winners. The hope, of course, is that this is just a phase. A cold stretch. A funk. The kind of thing every team goes through at some point in a long, brutal NFL season. But you don't get many second chances in this league, especially on defense. The line between being aggressive and being reckless is thin. The margin for error is microscopic. One misstep, one misread, one missed tackle. It can all fall apart in seconds. And for this Steelers defense, it has. Too many times. The eye test has been bad. The numbers have been worse. We've seen offenses attack the same soft spots in coverage, over and over, with almost no adjustment in sight. We've watched quarterbacks dissect the middle of the field like it's wide open land. Slants, seam routes, curls underneath, they've been there all year. Wide open. And it's not just elite QBs doing it. Even rookies, even backups, have found success. That's not just talent being outmatched. That's scheme, preparation, coaching, all failing in unison. And still, we wait for something to change. Mike Tomlin has always been known for his defensive pride. It's part of his DNA. He doesn't just oversee this defense, he takes ownership of it. And because of that, change on this side of the ball doesn't come easily. Adjustments are subtle. Innovations are rare. There's a loyalty to veterans, to old principles, to the idea that execution will fix everything. But at some point, you have to recognize that if your system isn't working, it's not just the players, it's the plan. Look at what happened against the Bengals. The defense looked unprepared, disorganized. They weren't just beaten physically, they were outcoached. Mismatches were exploited. Miscommunications were obvious. And it's not just one game. This has been a story across multiple weeks. When you keep seeing the same breakdowns, the same holes in coverage, the same lack of pressure, that's not coincidence. That's identity. That's who you are until you prove otherwise. The idea that maybe the DBs weren't the main issue in Cincinnati is a fair one. After all, Ja'Marr Chase is a nightmare for anyone. Higgins is a legitimate number one receiver on most teams. And if the game plan isn't giving your corners help, if the safeties are late, if the linebackers aren't dropping deep enough, it creates a situation where no one can win. Not at this level. Not against that kind of talent. But here's the thing. It wasn't just Chase and Higgins. This has been a problem even against average receiving core. And it's not just about giving up yards. It's about giving up easy yards. That's what's most troubling. Teams aren't earning every inch against this defense. They're getting them handed over, drive after drive. A couple of quick throws, a missed tackle, a blown zone, and suddenly it's 1st and goal. That's been the pattern. That's the question no one seems ready to answer. Not the players, not the coaches, not anyone inside the building. And that silence, or maybe that stubbornness, is starting to wear thin. Because this team still has pieces. This defense still has stars. And if the right adjustments are made, there's still time to salvage this season. But the urgency has to be there. The humility has to be there. The willingness to say what we're doing isn't working has to be there. Jordan Love is no world beater, but he's efficient and smart. He's not going to beat himself. He's going to take what you give him. If you leave the middle of the field open, he'll live there. If you show soft zone, he'll chip away until it breaks. And after that, the names only get scarier. Justin Herbert will test your depth. Josh Allen will test your courage. Lamar Jackson will test your discipline. Jared Goff will test your structure. There's no hiding anymore. The back half of this schedule is a minefield. And if the Steelers don't find answers fast, the same script will keep playing out. It's frustrating because you know the capability is there. You see in moments. You see it when they're flying around, communicating, closing in on receivers with urgency. But then it fades. It's like a flicker of what the defense used to be. The challenge now is finding a way to make that the standard, not the exception. And let's be honest, part of that falls on Tomlin. As much as he's known for his defensive background, he's also known for loyalty. Loyalty to schemes, loyalty to assistants, loyalty to veterans who may no longer be the best option. That kind of loyalty can be admirable. But in this league, it can also be costly. You have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to evolve. And right now, the signs of evolution just aren't there. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In what could be one of the most shocking moves of the NFL offseason, whispers around the league suggest that defensive juggernaut Aaron Donald is on the verge of signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. If true, this acquisition would instantly transform Pittsburgh's defense into a true nightmare for opposing offenses. Donald, a perennial All-Pro and 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, has long been the cornerstone of any defensive unit he graces, and the mere possibility of him donning black and gold has fans and analysts alike buzzing with anticipation. The Steelers have been quietly working behind the scenes to bolster their defensive front, and sources hint that the team's front office sees this as the perfect opportunity to pair Donald with an already formidable defensive line. Rumors suggest that negotiations have been intense but promising, with Donald reportedly intrigued by the challenge of reshaping a historically hard-hitting defense. Should the deal materialize, the Steelers would suddenly boast a front seven capable of wrecking quarterbacks' timing, stifling running backs, and completely altering the dynamics of the AFC North. League insiders have been speculating on how this move could reshape the balance of power in the NFL. Imagine a defensive line featuring Donald at the heart of the action, supported by Pittsburgh's disciplined linebackers and a secondary eager to capitalize on the chaos he creates. Analysts are already conjuring up visions of quarterbacks trembling at the mere sight of this new Steel Curtain 2.0. A defense built not just to compete, but to dominate. Fans are excited, and social media is aflame with debates about just how unstoppable this lineup could be. While nothing has been officially confirmed, the rumor alone has sparked a wave of excitement reminiscent of the Steelers' glory days. If Aaron Donald does indeed sign, Pittsburgh might just have the kind of defense that haunts nightmares across the league. A squad built to crush drives, intimidate skill players, and redefine what it means to be a defensive powerhouse. Keep your eyes peeled. The offseason just got a whole lot more interesting. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.